to our next guest speaker, Prajakta Talathi, data strategy and performance measurement expert currently in education finance USA. Her expertise includes enterprise analytics, strategy, and data driven decision making, AI driven analytics, and intelligent reporting systems, translating complex data insights for executive and C suite leadership. Her topic includes forecasting the stakeholder trust, turning predictive analytics into decisions, governance, and audit ready outcomes. With that, let's welcome Prajakta Talati.
Hey, thank you for this wonderful introduction. Let me share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hope you all are having a good time and listening to such eminent, outstanding speakers in their space. And thank you to Emily Spear. I'm honored to be your keynote speaker at this conference in 2026. As introduced, I'm Prajakta Talathi. I work at the intersection of data strategy, analytics, and business execution to measure performance and turn insights into decisions. Today, I want to talk about forecasting that stakeholders trust. It's not about accuracy. It's not just about accuracy, but it's what it takes to turn the predictive insights into decision, governance, and audit ready outcomes. Without further ado, let's start. So, what is trust? I gather people are from different walks of life here. So, in plain, simple business English, trust is something we can act on, we can explain, and defend it. What does act on mean? Act on is, does the signals arrive early enough to change your decision, or is it just a nice chat and then now what? Or it's also something that you can explain it. So something who is even a non-expert can understand what is moved, why it is moved, and do we default? And so there's no more AI says, but there's an actual legit explanation behind it. And we can defend it. Can we replay the logic later when we are reviewing it, or there's an audit or a board conversation around it? Or do we just say we cannot reconstruct this at the moment? I would encourage you to test every analytics initiative around these three questions because predictive analytics, like forecasting, is that nobody, because for forecasting, you need to back it up with the trust. Otherwise, it's just an expensive rumor. So let's go to a monthly forecasting scenario. We have forecast numbers for disbursement dollars for private student loans, the numbers that drive cash flow, your marketing spend, the risk appetite, staffing, and other resources. The hard part here is not just finding the number. The hard part is getting all these four different teams to believe the same story soon enough to act on time because the market is really time sensitive. So, marketing, what do they think? Do we push down our volume or do we slow down? For credit risk, it is this volume the right mix if the pricing is right? For operations, can we process without any delays? And for finance, it is how much funding do we need and when do we need that? Everyone opens their respective dashboards, and suddenly we are not in one meeting. We are actually in the four different movies. So there's no surprise why the forecast can't execute. This is the part most people underestimate. It is here, it's not yet a forecasting problem. It's a metric language. If people are talking in different languages, there is no way that you can come to a common consensus. Growth is watching their applications and approvals, so they think that the demand is high. Credit is watching loss rate and the risk miss, so they think that the risk is elevating. Operations here is watching the cycle time, the certification, SLAs, and they think that they are lagging. Finance is watching the disbursement timing, the liquidity, and somehow they feel that the cash timing is off. It is the same business, the same month, but four different dimensions of truth. And when these four teams don't share the same story, you don't get a plan. The business actually gets a whiplash. So, the first step towards making any model trustworthy isn't a fancy model. It's shared definition. That's how you start moving from hindsight to foresight. The twist. Now, when the reality derails our forecast. Now let's say we do align on the metric. Reality still has opinions. Three very practical twists that derail disbursements and volume forecast, particularly in education finance. Certification lags from institutions. Approvals look fine, but cash starts to shift. Student enrollment date, like when the tuition starts, loans are shifting. The loans are still coming, but now a timing is moved. The bills due are late, or the documents where you're submitting your bills are having some defects. Now here the volume exists, but it still gets stuck in rework, calls, delays, etc. These are some practical and at times unforeseen situations where the forecast hasn't failed, but it's the overall microeconomic factors, the system which has failed to adapt. So now what? Do we wait for the month end report or do we intervene this week itself, like we take time early actions? This is where we shift from forecasting as a reporting to operating it as a system. We move from alerts to actions. We have the signal, like something has changed. We dive deeper into the context, what's changed, where it has changed. Now we would run our forecast and what is the impact on the disbursement dollars. Then we have a decision as do we act on this or do we wait? We can easily review this work because it is backed by a process, a model, and we did do the logging. So whenever we have to trace it back, it's available. So this talk is basically the design manual for that team. How we are moving from hindsight to foresight. Here's the trap where teams often try to explain by adding more and more complexities to the model because things have changed. They feel that, okay, let me talk about this. Let me bring on this in my model and see how it changes. But explainability isn't just a model feature, it's a maturity move. The ladder is simple. You describe what happened, which is like your rear view mirror. You can look back in the past, what has happened historically. Diagnostic, you are checking the levers as to what happened, what are the variances since that happened. Predictive, how likely is it to happen in the next phase. Prescriptive, what should we do now? Can we remediate it? Is there a policy change? Do we need more staffing, or what is the action that drives all of this analysis? And cognitive, what can adapt, automate maintenance with oversights? When you start moving up this ladder, the room stops to argue about the numbers and start agreeing on the action. They now have the visibility and an understanding of the model. Now let's talk the audit readiness because trust isn't just does it work? It's also can we stand behind it later? This is the trust stack. Every layer answers a different stakeholder fear. The data are the inputs clean and connected timely. Model is the signal accurate enough, fair enough, or fresh enough for our model to perform? The decision makers, what action changes because of this forecast? For governance or compliance, who approved it? Can we replay the logic later? And the most important, reliability. Will the pipeline recover, explain, and alert itself when the logic changes? And here's the key line. Audit ready does not mean slower. It means it can be easily replayable. Once the model becomes a single source of truth, the next mistake is thinking that it can run unattended. Automation should accelerate our judgment, but it cannot replace the accountability. So the human in loop sequence is that we detect the patterns easily. We classify it based on the drift that we have seen. We review the context with the human before any action is taken. We intervene if something is flagged or you can see some changes in there. And eventually, you log the decision, the rationale, and the owner, and then you feed it back to your model for its own machine learning. While automation is the accelerator, governance is your steering wheel. Reliability, which is our last mile. Trust is maintained and not achieved. When the forecast becomes the source of truth, maintain it like a product. Monitor the drifts, the freshness, set alerts before decision break, degrade safely, baselines, wider ranges, pause your big moves when confidence turns red, because the fastest way to lose trust is a silent failure. Okay, I'm going to leave you with these three closing ideas, which you can bring back to your team. Forecasts don't create value. It's the better decisions which do. If team speaks different metric languages, the forecast cannot be executed. Trust is built twice, once in the model and again in the system operating around it. Lastly, I want you to go deeper, and if you can reuse these frameworks, please cite the papers listed here. This keynote title is the synthesis of my underlining frameworks coming from these four publications. Two are already out for people's perusal, and then two are pending. Thank you for listening. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that knowledgeable presentation. So there are no questions at this moment. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you.